The stars hung like frozen diamonds across the endless black of space. Commander Jaren Kor sat in the cockpit of his galactic jet, his knuckles white around the controls. His heart pounded in his chest, not from fear but from the weight of responsibility. He was the ace pilot of the United Earth Coalition, the kind of pilot whose name alone could make the enemy hesitate. Today, however, names and fame meant nothing. The fate of an entire colony rested on him. Dracos 9 had been a peaceful, quiet planet at the edge of Coalition space, with forests stretching for thousands of kilometers and small cities built along rivers that glittered like molten silver. That peace was gone. In its orbit loomed a massive alien dreadnought, larger than any human city, its hull black and alive with pulsing organic lights. The alien ship's weapons had already targeted civilian sectors. Evacuations had begun, but ships could only carry so many people and time was cruelly short. "Jaren, this is command," a voice crackled in his helmet. "Abort mission." "That ship, it's impossible. Pull back. You can't take it alone." Jaren didn't respond. He didn't need to. He could see the devastation the dreadnought would bring, and he refused to wait for orders. Every second he delayed meant lives lost below. He had trained for moments like this, every simulation, every emergency maneuver, every life-risking exercise leading to this exact moment. The dreadnought's sensors flared red. Jaren felt the alien awareness like a pressure in his chest. The ship was aware of him. It was hunting him. Plasma streaked through the thinning atmosphere, cutting trails of blue fire. He twisted, dove, and climbed, a dance of man and machine against the dying sunlight of Dracos 9's horizon. Even with his skill, doubt whispered. Could a single human, one fragile body and one fragile ship, really stop a monster built to destroy worlds? The dreadnought's main cannon started a wide sweep, forcing him into a desperate dive toward the planet's surface. The forests, oceans, and cities blurred below, tiny and vulnerable, and yet amid the fear, determination rose. Humanity would survive. It had to. He pushed the jet to its limits. The engines roared, flames licking the edges of the craft as he pierced the upper atmosphere. Space opened above him, cold and infinite, and yet here he felt most alive. The dreadnought's sensors flared again, slower now, reacting to his sudden acceleration. For the first time he saw it, hesitation. Even this monstrous ship, centuries old and built for war, hesitated. Jaren smirked. Fear. Even a dreadnought could feel it. That was the human edge. Humans were underestimated in every corner of the galaxy. Today he would prove why. Missiles launched from his jet, weaving in impossible arcs, striking weak points in the alien hull. Explosions flared like distant suns, lighting the darkness around the dreadnought. It didn't destroy it, nothing could, but it slowed it, made it defensive. Every hit mattered. Every second mattered. His mind raced as he maneuvered, thinking not just about the fight but the people below. Families hiding in homes, children gripping each other in fear, old men and women praying for survival. Every life weighed on him, fueling his determination. He had no time for hesitation, no room for error. One wrong move, 1 second too slow, and the dreadnought would obliterate the planet. And yet, amidst the chaos, a strange exhilaration surged through him. This was why he flew, why he trained, why he pushed his body and mind to limits others dared not imagine. He wasn't just fighting a ship. He was fighting for the very soul of humanity, and in this vast, uncaring galaxy, that soul burned brighter than any star. Suddenly, the dreadnought fired its forward cannons. Plasma streaks screamed toward the planet, slicing the clouds, leaving trails of molten air. Jaren rolled his jet violently, narrowly avoiding the blasts, feeling the heat and shockwave tear past his wings. A nearby city trembled, buildings collapsing, smoke rising into the darkening sky. He tightened his grip, jaw set. There was no turning back. The jet screamed as it pushed toward the dreadnought, weaving between the alien ship's defensive fire. Every move was a gamble, every maneuver a life-or-death calculation. And yet Jaren didn't feel fear. He felt purpose. The human heart could endure fear, but it could also wield courage that no machine, no alien weapon could ever understand. The first salvo of his attack hit again. Sparks flared across the Dreadnought's hull. Its lights flickered with surprise. For a moment, Jaren allowed himself a breath, watching as centuries of alien confidence cracked. Even the most advanced warship could be humanized in the moment of desperation, forced to plead for its life. Jaren Kor, ruthless ace of the coalition, smiled grimly. He had broken through the atmosphere. He had dared to defy an ancient war machine. And though the battle was just beginning, one thing was certain. Humanity would not go quietly. Not on his watch. The stars above waited silently as the first battle cry of man against impossible odds echoed across the galaxy. The void of space stretched endlessly around Jaren Kor, but he felt no loneliness. The dreadnought loomed before him, immense and terrifying, yet now it seemed hesitant. The alien ship's massive hull shivered under the impact of his first strikes. Sparks danced across its surface and strange organic lights flickered erratically. Even a machine built for war could feel uncertainty. Jaren's pulse raced. He had never seen anything like this before. The Dreadnought's AI, or whatever intelligence controlled it, was adapting, recalculating every move, but every calculation now carried fear. Fear of the human who dared to challenge it, fear of the species it had underestimated, fear of extinction. Below, the colony of Dracos 9 clung to life. Cities smoked, rivers shimmered with reflected fire, and people screamed in panic. Evacuation shuttles struggled to carry civilians into orbit, but the Dreadnought's weapons were relentless. Jaren could not waste time. Every second he delayed meant thousands could die. He darted through space with terrifying speed, weaving between the alien ship's plasma bursts. Each move was precise, a calculated ballet of human ingenuity. His jet's thrusters flared, burning with brilliance, leaving streaks of golden light behind. And still the Dreadnought fired. Its massive weapons created shockwaves that tore across space, distorting the very void around them. "Stay with me, Kor," he muttered under his breath, though no one could hear. "Stay with me, humanity needs you." The alien ship responded, unleashing a sweeping barrage that threatened to crush his jet. Jaren twisted, rolled, and dived, scraping the edge of destruction but never falling into it. Each movement brought him closer to the Dreadnought's weak points, and each hit he scored sent another shiver through its hull. The lights flickered like a heartbeat in distress. For a moment he imagined the Dreadnought as a living being, pleading, its entire massive body begging for mercy. And in a strange way, Jaren understood it. Machines or no, survival instinct was universal. The alien ship had not expected a single human to stand against it, let alone inflict real damage, and now it had to confront an unimaginable truth. It could be defeated. Jaren's fingers danced across the controls, launching precision missiles that tore through the Dreadnought's armor. Explosions blossomed in bursts of green and orange fire, shaking the enemy from within. The hum of the Dreadnought's engines became erratic, faltering under the barrage. It was pleading, not with words, but with desperate movements, slower rotations, misaligned weapons, and hesitation in targeting civilians below. He remembered the people on the surface, the children hiding in school buildings, parents clutching them, workers trapped in collapsing factories. Every life counted. Every maneuver mattered. He could not afford a single miscalculation. And yet, as he fought, a deep, aching thought crept into his mind. Even this ruthless ace, even this human, could not survive alone forever. One mistake could mean annihilation. The Dreadnought fired its last line of plasma defense, a massive volley aimed directly at the planet. Jaren had seconds to act. He gritted his teeth, dived straight toward the incoming blasts, and with a flick of his wrist his jet surged upward in a blinding display of speed. The plasma streaked past him, missing by mere meters, slamming into the planet's surface and tearing mountains apart. He exhaled sharply, heart hammering. The Dreadnought had been damaged but still floated menacingly in orbit. Its lights pulsed like a dying heartbeat, warning, pleading, begging for respite. And in that terrifying silence between attacks, Jaren felt a strange connection. an understanding that they were both survivors, forced into conflict by circumstance and instinct. Then he saw it. A weak seam in the Dreadnought's hull, glowing ominously, a gap between centuries-old armor plates. It was small, barely noticeable, yet it was enough. Enough for a human with ingenuity and courage to turn the tide. Jaren adjusted his course, diving with precision toward the weak point. The Dreadnought's sensors flared frantically. It tried to track him to fire but hesitated, unsure. Every second it faltered meant lives saved below. Every flicker of hesitation gave humanity a chance. He felt exhaustion pressing against him, the burn in his muscles, the weight of fear, the hunger for survival. And yet, above it all, a single burning determination burned brighter than any star. Humans never surrendered. Humans fought, even when the odds were impossible, even when the universe itself seemed to oppose them. "Hold on," he whispered as if the Dreadnought could hear him. "Hold on. Humanity believes in you, even if you don't yet believe in yourself." With a final, violent twist, his jet surged into the opening, missiles streaking with deadly accuracy. The weak point exploded in a blinding flash, a roar of fire and metal that echoed through space. The Dreadnought shuddered violently, systems failing, lights flickering in panic, massive weapons misfiring. Seconds from ruin, the once mighty alien warship trembled like a frightened child. Jaren pulled back, heart pounding, sweat running down his brow. He hovered in the void, watching the Dreadnought falter. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Humanity had survived another impossible encounter, and though the battle was far from over, he had proven something vital. Courage, ingenuity, and willpower could make even a single human a threat no machine could ignore. Below, the colony of Dracos 9 began to breathe again, unaware of how close annihilation had come. Above, in the blackness of space, a ruthless ace of humanity's fleet stood victorious for now. And somewhere deep within the pulsing hull of the alien Dreadnought, a strange awareness began to form, a lesson in humility, and a fear it had never known before. The fight for Dracos 9 was only the beginning. But for the first time in centuries, the galaxy understood one truth. Humans would not be defeated, not ever. Jaren Kor hovered in the black emptiness above Dracos 9, chest heaving, fingers trembling slightly on the controls. The Dreadnought floated before him, its massive form scarred and smoking. For the first time it looked vulnerable, and yet Jaren knew better than to let relief take hold. In the void of space, nothing came easy. The Dreadnought's massive hull shuddered as its systems scrambled to respond. Plasma turrets rotated unpredictably, warning beams flaring. Its lights flickered like a heartbeat caught between fear and instinct. It was alive in a way humans could never fully understand, yet it was learning, and learning fast. Below, Dracos 9 burned in scattered pockets of fire. Jaren's mind raced not with fear but with calculation. Every maneuver, every missile, every evasive twist was now a balance between attacking the Dreadnought and protecting the colony. One wrong move and thousands would die, and he refused to fail. Not today. He dove toward the Dreadnought, engines screaming, weaving between bursts of plasma fire. Each strike from the alien ship forced him to push harder, to move faster, to think several steps ahead. Sweat stung his eyes, and his muscles screamed with exhaustion. Yet the fire inside him burned brighter than any fatigue. Humanity had survived countless threats, and he would not allow this one to erase them. Suddenly, the Dreadnought's flank opened, revealing rows of secondary weapons. Missiles streaked toward him, faster than his eyes could track individually. His hands moved with near-perfect instinct, flipping switches, launching decoys, and twisting the jet in impossible arcs. Each missile he dodged became a message. Humans could adapt, improvise, and survive against any odds. Not today, Jaren muttered under his breath, his voice tight with determination. Not ever. As he maneuvered, he caught a glimpse of something unusual. A small shuttle, barely visible against the blackness, launching from the Dreadnought's hull. It wasn't an attack. It was a warning. Or perhaps a plea. The alien ship was learning, adapting, realizing that brute force alone could not win. And yet it could not surrender. Its species pride, whatever remained of it, demanded resistance even in the face of ruin. Jaren's mind raced. He could sense the intelligence behind the fire and steel, the calculation behind each missed strike. This was not a mindless war machine. It was aware, and that awareness made it dangerous. Yet in its hesitation he saw an opening, one chance to turn the battle irrevocably in humanity's favor. With careful precision, he lined up another strike on the Dreadnought's weak seam, the same vulnerability he had discovered earlier. Missiles fired in perfect formation, exploding against the alien hull. Flames leapt across its surface and the Dreadnought shuddered violently, throwing debris into the void. Its systems faltered, lights flickering, thrusters sputtering. Seconds from ruin, the ship hesitated again, almost pleading. Jaren's heart ached. He had no time for pity, but he felt it nonetheless. He had faced countless enemies in simulations and real combat, but none had seemed so alive. The Dreadnought fought not out of malice, but out of survival instinct. And in that instinct, Jaren recognized something familiar. Fear. And fear could be turned into understanding. Below, the colony's evacuation was ongoing but still chaotic. Jaren's mind flickered to the children hiding in classrooms, families clinging together in homes, workers trapped in factories. Every life mattered. Every second counted. He couldn't waste energy on hesitation. Humanity's edge was not in technology alone, it was in courage and ingenuity and relentless resolve. He dove again, striking at the Dreadnought's exposed systems. Explosions rippled across the hull, causing secondary weapons to misfire, throwing the ship into disarray. For a moment, Jaren felt the exhilaration of victory, but space had no mercy. The Dreadnought was massive, and one wrong move could crush his tiny jet like an insect. Plasma bolts tore past him, igniting clouds of vapor from the planet's atmosphere below. The heat shimmered, and Jaren felt it on his faceplate. Time seemed to stretch. He thought of Earth, of humanity's victories and losses, of every life that had ever fought against impossible odds. And he realized something vital. Humans survive because they never stopped believing. They never stopped pushing, and neither would he. Another strike hit the Dreadnought's weak point, and this time the impact was devastating. The hull groaned, a sound that seemed almost vocal. The alien ship shuddered and faltered, its movements erratic, weapons offline. It was pleading in the only way it could, by failing to function, by revealing vulnerability, by showing fear. And in that moment, Jaren knew the tide had turned. Yet even in triumph, the ace felt the weight of the universe pressing down. Space was vast, enemies were patient, and the Dreadnought was only the beginning. He could not let pride blind him. Every life he had saved, every strike he had made, was temporary unless he ensured the destruction or surrender of this threat. Jaren Core pulled back, hovering above the wounded Dreadnought, watching its lights flicker like a dying heartbeat. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next move. Humanity had fought, human courage had triumphed where machine might had faltered, and yet the fight was far from over. The void was quiet now, except for the crackling of distant explosions and the hum of his jet. Jaren's chest heaved, sweat streaking down his face. His eyes, sharp and unwavering, never left the faltering enemy. He had seen fear in a machine, hesitation in a force that had once seemed unstoppable, and he had learned something profound. No matter how vast or powerful, nothing could withstand the human spirit. For now, the Dreadnought floated, damaged, pleading, and seconds from ruin. Humanity had gained a foothold in the galaxy's darkness, and above all, one man had proven what it meant to fight, not just to survive, but to remind the universe that humans never surrendered. Jaren Core's jet hovered above the crippled Dreadnought, engines humming softly against the black of space. The massive alien ship had faltered under his assault, but it was far from defeated. Its lights flickered erratically, and massive sections of its hull were torn open, yet inside, he could sense an intelligence that refused to give in. Survival was all it knew, and survival demanded recklessness. The Dreadnought's weapons began to fire again, slower, less precise, but more desperate. Plasma bolts and energy lances streaked toward him, not with the calm efficiency of a trained hunter, but with the blind fury of a wounded beast. Each shot came closer, forcing Jaren to twist, dive, and accelerate beyond normal limits. Sweat stung his eyes and his hands ached, but adrenaline and purpose kept him moving. Below, Dracos 9 still burned in scattered flames. Civilians had begun evacuating, but many remained trapped in crumbling buildings. Jaren's heart clenched at the thought. Every move he made could save lives or cost them, and he refused to fail. Humanity had never backed down, and he would not let this alien threat prove otherwise. The Dreadnought's desperation became visible. Massive sections of its armor began to collapse, thrusters misfiring, energy beams flaring uncontrollably. Its sensors tracked him more erratically, firing wild volleys into space, sometimes missing him entirely. And yet, it refused to retreat. It was a machine or life form, too proud to surrender, too programmed for survival to stop fighting, even when ruin was inevitable. Jaren adjusted his course, diving between debris from the Dreadnought's shattered hull. Sparks and flaming fragments drifted in space like deadly stars. He launched missiles hitting exposed weak points, watching as the alien ship shuddered violently. Its lights flickered pulse after pulse as if gasping for breath. Seconds from total destruction, the Dreadnought's hulking form trembled. For a brief moment, Jaren imagined the alien intelligence as a living being, terrified, pleading silently. Its massive form, built to annihilate worlds, had become a fragile creature in the cold void of space. And yet it was still dangerous. He had learned that desperation often made the strongest enemies unpredictable. One misstep, one collision, one random strike of energy, and his tiny jet could be reduced to scrap metal. "Come on," Jaren whispered, voice tight with focus. "You'll fall. But not today. Not while I can still protect them." The Dreadnought fired another volley, and this time Jaren was nearly hit. He rolled violently, watching as plasma streaked past, igniting fragments of debris, scattering them across space. His jet shuddered, alarms blaring, yet he kept his course. Humanity's edge was not just in firepower. It was in courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to surrender. He noticed a new weak seam opening along the Dreadnought's flank. It had been damaged before, but now desperation had exposed a larger vulnerability. This was his chance to end the fight. But with the alien ship unpredictable, the attack would be risky. One wrong approach and he could be caught in the Dreadnought's erratic plasma fire. Jaren took a deep breath, steadying his hands. His mind focused on the lives below, on the people who relied on him. The thought of children, families, and workers gave him clarity amidst chaos. Human life was fragile, yes, but it had resilience that no machine could comprehend, and he was its shield today. He dived, weaving through the alien fire, approaching the new weak point. Missiles streaked from his jet, hitting the seam in perfect precision. Explosions tore through the Dreadnought's hull, massive enough to shake the ship violently. Its thrusters sputtered, weapons misfired, and for the first time it began to drift helplessly in orbit. The Dreadnought's lights pulsed one last time like a heartbeat. Its movements became jerky, hesitant, almost pleading. Jaren could sense it, an awareness of impending doom. Even in its vast alien mind, it understood defeat, and yet somehow it continued to resist. Jaren hovered for a moment, heart hammering. Exhaustion clawed at him, muscles burning, sweat streaking his face. He had pushed beyond every limit he had known, and still there was no room for relief. The Dreadnought was not yet destroyed, but its fate was clear. Human courage and ingenuity had broken it, and in that victory, he realized something profound. Survival was not just about strength. It was about will, determination, the refusal to yield even when all seemed lost. Below, Dracos 9 began to breathe again. Evacuation shuttles completed their runs, carrying civilians into orbit. Fires still smoldered, but hope was returning. Humanity had survived another impossible threat, and above it all, one man had stood against a machine centuries in the making. The dreadnought twitched, sparks flying from its damaged hull. Jaren watched, chest heaving as the once proud warship drifted helplessly in the void. Seconds from ruin, it was a reminder of human resilience. One ace pilot, alone against impossible odds, had forced a machine to plead for its life. And in that silence, the galaxy itself seemed to acknowledge a truth long denied. Humans could not be underestimated. Jaren Core adjusted his course, engines glowing softly in the darkness. The battle was far from over, but the first victory had been won. One small but decisive moment that proved humanity's edge lay not in numbers or technology alone, but in courage, ingenuity, and heart. And in the black emptiness of space, the dreadnought twitched again, powerless yet alive. It had learned a lesson it would never forget. And Jaren Core, ruthless ace of humanity, was already thinking ahead, ready to finish what he had started. The void waited, silent and endless, but for once humanity had left its mark. Jaren Core hovered above the crippled dreadnought, engines burning hot, his body screaming with exhaustion. Sweat streaked his face, but he didn't feel it. His eyes were locked on the massive alien ship below. It was battered, shivering, sparks flying from ruptured hull plates, but it was still alive, still dangerous. The fight was far from over. The dreadnought's massive sensors swept the void erratically, searching, calculating, desperate. Its plasma cannons flared, firing wild shots that tore through the space around Jaren. Debris floated lazily in the void, ignited by stray energy blasts. One wrong move now and the ace pilot would become just another fragment of wreckage. But Jaren was ready. He had trained for impossible odds, and today, he carried not just skill but human determination in every movement. Below, Draco's 9 survivors continued to flee in evacuation shuttles. Tiny specks against the planet's surface. Fires burned in some cities, but humanity had survived the first wave, and it was because one man refused to yield. Jaren adjusted his course, spiraling toward the dreadnought's exposed weak points. Every twist, every turn, every missile he fired was a calculated risk. He dodged plasma beams with near-impossible maneuvers, feeling the heat of each shot as it tore past him. The jet shuddered under the strain, alarm screaming, but he pressed forward. Fear had no place here, only resolve. The dreadnought, sensing its doom, reacted with desperate aggression. Its massive thrusters flared, sending chunks of armor and machinery hurtling toward Jaren's jet. Energy bolts lashed out like angry tendrils, aiming to crush or incinerate him. And yet he danced between destruction and opportunity, missiles finding their marks. Explosions blooming across the alien hull like deadly fireworks. "Almost there," Jaren muttered, voice tight with focus. "Hold on. Humanity's counting on you." He dove closer, weaving between erratic bursts of plasma. The dreadnought shuddered violently as another strike tore through its outer armor. Sparks and green flames burst across its hull, and its thrusters sputtered. It moved slower now, hesitation turning to panic, and Jaren could see it even through the alien sensors. A strange awareness forming, a recognition that it might not survive this encounter. His mind flickered to the people below, the children hiding in school buildings, the families clinging together in homes, the workers trapped in factories. Every life mattered. Every second of hesitation could mean ruin. And yet he had no time to think of death, only victory, only survival. Humanity depended on it. Jaren fired another precise volley, striking the dreadnought's now critical weak points. Explosions shook the massive ship, metal tearing, lights flickering like a dying heartbeat. Its plasma cannons misfired wildly, shooting into the void instead of the jet. He had done it. He had forced the impossible machine into desperation, forced it to plead in its only language: survival. Even as adrenaline burned through his veins, Jaren felt exhaustion clawing at him. Hours of combat, unimaginable maneuvers, and near-death experiences had left him raw, and yet he couldn't stop. Humanity's edge was not in technology or numbers, it was in courage, in will, in refusing to surrender when the universe itself seemed determined to crush you. The Dreadnought made one last desperate attempt. Its massive hull rotated, trying to target him with every remaining weapon. Missiles streaked outward, energy beams carved the void, and entire sections of armor broke away. And in that moment, Jaren realized the alien ship was not evil. It was a force of survival acting on instinct, defending itself as fiercely as humans would defend their own lives. He adjusted his course, heart pounding, and dove into the heart of the Dreadnought's vulnerability. Missiles launched with deadly precision, tearing through the alien hull. Fire and debris erupted in blinding flashes, shaking the warship violently. Its lights flickered, sensors failed, and for the first time the massive ship stopped moving. It floated silent, defeated, seconds from complete ruin. Jaren pulled back, hovering in the void, chest heaving. Sweat ran down his faceplate and his fingers ached from hours of constant maneuvering. The Dreadnought's lights flickered one last time like a dying heartbeat, its thrusters sputtering, weapons offline. It was powerless yet alive, a witness to human determination and ingenuity. Below, the people of Dracos 9 were safe, for now. Fire still smoldered, but hope returned. Humanity had survived another impossible threat, and above it all, one man had stood against a machine centuries in the making. And in that moment, Jaren understood something profound. Victory was not measured in destruction alone, but in resilience, in the refusal to surrender, in the courage to act when others could not. He gazed at the crippled Dreadnought, silent and still in the void. The alien ship had fought valiantly, yet it had learned the lesson humanity had known all along. Determination, courage, and ingenuity could overcome even the greatest of odds. One human pilot had proven that fact today. Jaren Core exhaled, finally allowing himself a brief moment of relief. His jet glowed softly in the void, engines cooling, systems stabilizing. The galaxy had witnessed a small but decisive victory. Humanity had won this battle, and the message was clear. Humans could not be underestimated. Not now, not ever. And in the stillness of space, the defeated Dreadnought floated, a silent witness to the relentless courage of one human, one pilot, who had dared to defy fate itself. The galaxy might never forget what had happened here. One man facing impossible odds had reminded the universe of the indomitable spirit of humanity. The void of space was silent now, save for the faint hum of Jaren Core's jet. The Dreadnought drifted, crippled, its massive hull scarred and smoking. For the first time in centuries, it moved without purpose, powerless against the human who had defied it. Jaren hovered above, chest heaving, feeling the weight of exhaustion settle into his bones. Every muscle screamed, every nerve burned, yet he didn't feel relief, only the deep, steady pulse of responsibility. Below, Dracos 9 began to breathe again. Evacuation shuttles carried survivors into orbit, their tiny lights flickering like stars against the darkening world. Fires still smoldered, cities were scarred, and some lives had been lost, but humanity had survived. The thought filled Jaren with a quiet pride, a deep satisfaction that no metal could measure. He had done what many believed impossible, faced an ancient, unstoppable enemy, and prevailed. Even in the void, he could sense the alien ship's awareness. Its sensors flickered weakly, as if it were trying to understand what had happened. It had been defeated, yet it lingered, unwilling or unable to disappear entirely. Jaren felt a strange empathy for the machine. It had fought with skill, with instinct, with the same will to survive that humans carried in their hearts. And yet, it had underestimated humans, underestimated him. He looked out toward the black expanse, thinking of Earth and the countless worlds humans had colonized. Humanity had faced countless threats, and each time they had survived, not because of the strongest weapons or the largest fleets, but because of ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to yield. That was the edge humans carried into the stars. That was why he fought. Jaren's hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his controls, guiding his jet away from the floating wreckage of the Dreadnought. He allowed himself a moment to breathe, to feel the exhaustion and relief in equal measure. Memories of the battle flashed through his mind. The first break through the atmosphere, the dance of plasma and missiles, the desperate shudders of the alien ship, and the moment it had faltered before him. Every memory carried the weight of lives saved and the gravity of victory earned. A voice crackled through his comms. "Jaren, report. Status of enemy and colony?" He exhaled sharply, voice steady despite the strain. "Dreadnought is disabled, drifting. Colony evacuation nearly complete. We've bought them time. Humanity's edge is still alive." There was silence on the other end, then a simple, relieved reply. "Understood. Return to base. You've earned it, Commander." Jaren smiled faintly, though fatigue weighed heavily on him. He began the slow journey back to the nearest coalition station, drifting past fragments of the alien ship that still glimmered in the void. For all its power and intelligence, it had failed to comprehend human determination. That lesson was etched now into the memory of the galaxy. Humans never surrendered, and their courage could tip the balance against even the greatest odds. As he glided, he thought about the people of Dracos 9, the families, the children, the workers. They would rebuild, carrying forward a story of survival that would inspire generations. And somewhere in the stars, the crippled dreadnought would carry the memory of a single human who had defied it, a reminder that power alone was never enough when confronted by courage, ingenuity, and will. Jaren's mind wandered to Earth, to the faces of those who had trained him, who had believed in humanity's place in the stars. He had proven them right today. But the galaxy was vast and threats were endless. One victory did not end the war, but it reaffirmed a truth humans had always known. They were capable of rising against impossible odds. He adjusted his course, watching as Dracos 9 shrank beneath him, its scars visible but its life force intact. The evacuation was nearly complete. Survivors waved from shuttles, tiny figures against the vast planet. In that simple gesture, Jaren felt the enormity of his actions. He had faced a machine designed to destroy worlds, and humanity had endured because of him, because of one human willing to risk everything. Even as relief washed over him, a spark of determination flared. The Dreadnought's defeat was a warning to the galaxy, but it was also a promise humanity would continue to rise. They would continue to fight, and wherever threats appeared, someone like Jaren Kor would be there, ruthless in battle, yet guided by courage and heart, standing between destruction and survival. The void remained silent, the stars cold and distant. Yet above Dracos 9, one human pilot carried the weight of an entire species' hope, and in that quiet, drifting moment, Jaren understood something profound. Victory was fleeting, but courage was eternal. The galaxy might test humans again, but no force could extinguish their spirit. He exhaled, leaning back in the cockpit, letting his jet drift gently through space. The adrenaline ebbed, leaving a deep, steady rhythm of life in its place. Humanity had survived, and he had reminded the stars why humans could not be ignored. And somewhere deep in the void, the crippled dreadnought remained, a silent witness to the enduring strength of human courage. Jaren closed his eyes briefly, feeling both relief and exhaustion. The battle was over, but the lesson was eternal. Humanity had risen once again against impossible odds, and for now that was enough. Jaren Kor drifted through the void in the quiet aftermath of battle. The dreadnought lay crippled behind him, a massive silhouette against the black of space, sparks still drifting from ruptured hull plates. Its once mighty weapons lay silent. Its sensors flickered weakly, and for the first time it was powerless. The alien warship had fought with intelligence and precision, yet it had been undone by human courage, skill, and resolve. Below, Dracos 9 began to heal. Smoke still rose from cities scarred by fire, but evacuation shuttles carried survivors into orbit. Families clung together. Children clutched tightly to parents, and even amidst the chaos, hope bloomed. Humanity had survived an impossible threat, not because of superior numbers or machines, but because of the indomitable human spirit. And above it all, one man had carried that spirit into the void. Jaren's hands rested lightly on the controls, body aching from hours of extreme maneuvering. His mind replayed the battle, the first dive through the atmosphere, the dance of missiles and plasma, the trembling hull of the Dreadnought, the moment he had struck its weak points. He felt a strange connection to the alien ship, a mixture of respect and pity. It had fought valiantly, yet it had not understood humans. That lesson had been learned, and the galaxy itself would remember it. He adjusted his course back to the Coalition station, glancing down at the planet below. Survivors waved from the shuttles, tiny but radiant beacons of life. Each one represented a story saved, a life preserved, a family kept intact. And for that, Jaren felt a deep, almost sacred pride. Humanity had endured, and he had been its shield. The void around him was silent, but the echoes of the battle lingered. Sparks of debris floated lazily, drifting from the Dreadnought's battered hull. Each fragment told a story of human ingenuity against impossible odds, a story of courage that no machine could ever match. Jaren thought of the countless humans who had come before him, who had faced insurmountable threats on distant worlds, and he felt connected to all of them. A quiet voice came through his comms, almost soft in comparison to the roar of battle. "Commander Core, status?" He exhaled, steadying his voice. "Dreadnought disabled. Colony evacuated. Humanity's edge. Proven once again." Silence followed for a moment, then a low, relieved acknowledgement. "Understood. Return to base. You've done more than any of us could have hoped. Humanity owes you today." Jaren allowed himself a faint smile, though exhaustion weighed heavily on him. Victory was not a trophy, nor a medal. It was the lives saved, the hope preserved, the knowledge that one human could make a difference in the vast, uncaring galaxy. He thought about the Dreadnought again, its intelligence still flickering weakly, trying to comprehend defeat. Even in its final moments, it was alive, a witness to human willpower. It had been a formidable opponent, but humans had an edge no machine could replicate. Courage, creativity, and an unyielding spirit. The journey back to the station was quiet, the stars stretching endlessly ahead. Jaren reflected on the battle and its meaning. Humanity's place in the galaxy was not guaranteed. Every encounter, every mission, every risk carried the possibility of annihilation. Yet time and again humans had endured, and today one pilot had reminded the universe why that was so. Below, Dracos 9 glimmered softly, a planet scarred but alive. Fires burned low, rivers reflected the faint light of evacuation shuttles, and forests that had survived the initial strike began to shimmer with life. Humanity had been tested, and it had risen. The message was clear: humans could not be ignored. Not by aliens, not by machines, not by the galaxy itself. Jaren Core closed his eyes for a brief moment, letting the relief wash over him. His body ached, but his heart was light. He had faced impossible odds, had fought a warship centuries in the making, and had prevailed. Every human life saved, every family preserved, every hope kept alive. It was all worth the cost. And somewhere in the cold, black void, the Dreadnought floated, crippled, powerless, a witness to the courage of one man and the strength of an entire species. It had learned that no matter how vast or powerful, no force could withstand the human spirit when it burned with determination and heart. Jaren's jet cut a slow path through the void, returning toward Coalition space. The galaxy stretched endlessly before him, full of dangers yet to come, yet he felt no fear. Humanity would continue to rise. Humanity would continue to fight. And wherever threats appeared, someone like him, ruthless in battle, guided by courage, heart, and unwavering resolve, would stand between destruction and survival. He looked once more at Dracos 9, shimmering softly under the distant sun. Humanity had triumphed, courage had won, and in the quiet expanse of space, one pilot carried the knowledge that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, humans would endure. Humans would rise. Humans would not be defeated. The stars waited silently, yet the galaxy had already taken notice. Humanity had spoken without words. One man, one ace, had reminded the universe of what it had always underestimated: the heart of humanity. Jaren Kor exhaled, allowing himself to finally relax. The weight of hours and lives lifted slightly from his shoulders. The Dreadnought was gone as a threat, the planet was safe, and the galaxy had witnessed the truth. Humans were not just survivors, they were relentless, clever and unyielding. As his jet glided into the distance, fading into the starlit horizon, Jaren understood something eternal. The battle was won, but the lesson endured forever. Humanity's courage would echo across the stars, a testament to resilience, heart, and the unbreakable spirit of one small species in a vast and indifferent universe. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, he smiled, not as a pilot, not as a soldier, but as a human. Because today humanity had truly triumphed.